Hi, second graders. Today I'd like to show you a book called Togo by Robert Blake. And the cool thing about this book, well, there are a lot of cool things about it. It's very exciting, but also it's true. So it's actually called narrative nonfiction because it's a true story. So it doesn't just list facts like expository nonfiction, but it actually tells a story that actually turns out being true. And there's something super interesting at the end that you'll be surprised to see. So today I'm going to show you part of it, and then we're going to think about some questions we have about it, and then tomorrow I'll show you the rest. So let me share my screen. Okay. Togo. Leonard Zapala shook his head. He carefully watched every new pup, hoping to see that special one. A pup that would grow into the perfect dog to lead his sled racing team. But it was unlikely to be this pup, the one he called Togo. He was too small, too independent, and too wild for his team. So one day, when a woman came to his kennel looking for a pet, Zapala said, "I've got just the dog for you," and he gave her Togo. But Togo didn't want to be a pet. He wanted to be a sled dog. He crashed through the woman's parlor window and ran all the way home to be with the team. "Any dog that wants to be here that badly can stay," was what Zapala said. When Zapala's team wasn't racing, he and the dogs hauled freight all over Alaska. One stormy day, when Togo was only 8 months old, Zapala planned to leave him behind while he took the team on an overnight supply run to a place called Dime Creek. "Keep that pup behind the fence," Zapala called to the kennel helper as he and his team pulled away. But the fence did not stop Togo. Late that night, he found a way to escape and chased after the team. It was snowing hard the next morning on the trail, so Zapala harnessed the team and took off before dawn. By daylight, the dogs had lost their way. Suddenly, all ears went up. The team bolted forward as if the dogs had caught a scent. "Reindeer?" Zapala wondered. "A fox?" A dog stepped into view. "Togo!" Zapala sighed. "You look like you ran all night." The next day, Togo was allowed to run free around the team. He nipped and barked at the team. Zapala knew his dogs would never find the trail with Togo distracting them. He put the dog in harness at the back of the team just to keep him under control. "That will slow you down," Zapala said, but it didn't. Togo easily kept the pace. Surprised, Zapala moved Togo up to a position in the center of the line. When they took off, Togo pulled harder than any other dog. "All right then," Zapala said, and moved Togo to the lead position. "Let's see if you can get us back on track." Togo easily found the trail. Although small for a Siberian Husky, there we go, Togo was very strong. He had a perfect sense of direction and always tried to travel in a straight line. Right from the start, he got the team where they needed to go, though he often plowed them through a snowbank to get there. In 1918, Zapala entered Togo in his first race, the Borden Marathon. The next year, they set the round for the fastest time ever in that event. Race after race, it was always the same. Togo's team the winners. Zapala became known as the fastest man in North America. It's because of that dog Togo, everybody said. Then, one icy January day, there came a desperate knock on Sapala's door. Diphtheria, the man's voice cut through the freezing wind. A young boy. It's so contagious that in 2 weeks it could wipe out everyone here in Nome. He tried to catch his breath. Anchorage has an antitoxin that can stop it, but the train from Anchorage only goes as far as Nenana. Nenana was 600 miles from Nome. A dog team has volunteered to bring the serum from Nenana to Nulato, still 300 miles away from Nome. You have the fastest team in Alaska. Would you make the run to Nulato and bring back the serum? When do you need it? Sapala asked. Yesterday, the man said. January 28th, 1925. Newspaper headlines around the world shouted this story. Nome's deadly race against time and the elements. It usually took the U.S. mail system 30 days to make the run from Nenana to Nome. But now, in the middle of winter, the mushers didn't have 30 days. Nome had no more than 2 weeks before the diphtheria devastated the city. Togo's eyes followed Sapala as he carefully chose the dogs for this run. Only the fastest, most trail smart, and obedient dogs would do. At last, the team was set, with Togo in the lead. Sapala called out to him with his familiar clucking sounds, and the team left Nome. The team soon settled down behind Togo. The only sounds were the slush of the sled and the breathing of the dogs. With just 6 hours of daylight this time of year, Sapala set a quick pace and made the 30 miles into Solomon as the sun set. January 29th, 1925. On the second day, a strong wind came up. Drifting snow covered the trail. Togo, with his good trail sense, carefully avoided stumps and holes and anything hidden under the snow. The going was slow. Sapala decided to take a shortcut across frozen Golovin Bay. As soon as he and the dogs stepped onto the bay, the wind increased, blowing away the snow and leaving only hard, slick ice. They made it into Golovin on schedule, but it was anyone's guess as to whether Togo led them or the wind blew them into the village that night. When they got to Golovin, the news was bad. Things are getting worse in Nome. They've radioed to say that if the relay takes 2 weeks, the serum will arrive too late, his host told the musher. Sapala did not get much sleep that night. January 30th, 1925. Sapala set out early the next day and drove the team hard to cover the 53 miles to Isaac's Point. Maybe too hard. How are the dogs? A man asked him. Holding up, the musher answered, but as he looked over the team, he seemed concerned. January 31st, 1925. Making sure you guys can see it. Okay. Sapala woke and sat straight up. Something was wrong. He cocked his ear and listened. Quickly, he jumped out of bed and looked out the window. The wind has changed, he said aloud. Togo was waiting for him outside. Wind's coming straight in from the bay now. It'll break up the ice. Sapala quickly harnessed the team. If we're going to make it across Norton Bay, we've got to do it now. Okay, Togo, lead him out, he called. Far out in front of the sled, Togo read the ice. He looked for cracks, felt for loose water, and listened for any sound of ice breakup. The wind never let up. Sapala shifted on the sled and put his hand to his back. He could feel it in his bones. The weather was changing. A storm was coming in. Hop, hop, he called. Faster. They had to get across Norton Bay before the weather pinned them down and ice broke up. Hour after hour they ran. The dog Smokey was struggling. The team needed a rest. Then Togo's ears went up. He shifted his gait and looked off to the side. There, just ahead, was another team, fighting among themselves. Sapala called, shh, shh, run through, run through. Suddenly, words from the other team jumped off the wind. Serum, turn back. They had almost run right past the serum. The other musher ran up to Sapala. I was sent from Shaktuluk to intercept you. The epidemic in Nome has gotten worse, he hollered over the wind. Teams have been added so that the serum can travel both day and night. Sapala breathed a sigh of relief and looked at his exhausted team. I guess you'll be taking the serum on to Nome then. The man looked back at his own team. They've been fighting since we left the village. They won't make it, he said. You've got the better team. You got to turn back and deliver the serum to the next relay man in Golovin. Return to Golovin? Sapala squinted back through the storm building over the bay. That was 90 miles back. And now they would have to cross Norton Bay again, this time head on into the wind. He looked down at his own team. It desperately needed rest. All the dogs were lying down, all except one. Togo stood pawing the ice. Give me this serum, Sapala growled. Sapala packed the serum and moved the team out. They hugged the land as long as they could, but finally Sapala gave the command, Togo, haw! And Togo turned left to move his team back onto the ice of Norton Bay. Immediately, the weather attacked the team. Togo fought the wind, struggling to keep the sled on course. Sapala's gloved hands were knotted around the sled handle. The temperature was 40 below zero. He kept thinking about the team. Too slow, and the dogs would stiffen up. Too fast, and just breathing hard would scorch their lungs. Sapala pulled the hood of his parka down. Togo would have to be his eyes and ears. The snow drove into the dogs' faces like millions of tiny pins. That's a really good simile. And you guys probably felt that before. Sometimes when it's snowing really hard. They held their heads low and closed their eyes, allowing Togo to lead the way. Sapala was nodding off at the helm of the sled. Sapala bolted awake. The team was slowing down. Their stomachs were beginning to freeze where their fur was thin. Sapala stopped the team and ran to his dogs. His fingers froze instantly when he threw off his gloves. He massaged each dog's stomach with his bare hands. Quickly, he got the team underway again. Inch by inch, the team worked its way across the bay. Suddenly, the wind kicked the sled on its side. The big dog Jens went down. A line twisted around his neck. Dogs scrambled in all directions, pulling the line taut. Sapala made a grab for the line, and a dog made a lunge for his arm. Togo barked. The dogs backed off. Sapala loosened Jens and untangled the lines. Then they were off again. Hour after hour, it was the same. Snow, bitter cold, wind. The storm grew worse. Growls were heard. Tempers were wearing thin. Sapala was concerned that if they did not find a place to warm the serum, it might freeze. The weather doubled its fury. Sapala pushed the team harder, stopping only briefly at an igloo to warm the serum. Out on the Norton Bay ice, the big dog Jens collapsed again and was dragged a quarter mile. The dog called Johnson's eyes froze shut. Sapala cleared them using his own breath. Then Smoky refused to run any farther. Even Togo could not get him to move. The whole team came to a halt. Sapala jumped up the runners of the sled from the runners of the sled and grabbed Smoky by the collar. Get going, you! And then he felt Togo's eyes looking at him, eyes that would not let go. They said, your team has given you all they have. We are going to stop there and talk about some questions, and we will read the rest tomorrow.